Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the anatomy of a truly massive success story. We're breaking down the direct, on-the-ground feedback from the highly anticipated Media Relations and Public Speaking Workshop. This took place in Carriacou, Grenada from the 4th to the 7th of May, 2026. Through the data and personal testimonials we're about to explore together, we're going to uncover exactly what makes a training program go from just good to absolutely transformational.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this first statistic is just staggering. 98% of participants rated both the presenter and the workshop as either excellent or very good. I mean, think about that. Getting almost an entire room of diverse professionals to agree that an experience was basically flawless, that is a clear indicator that something uniquely effective happened here. Near unanimous agreement at a 4-day professional event is, frankly, incredibly rare.
And it gets even better. If we look a little deeper into that data, an incredible 77% of attendees didn't just casually like the program. No, they gave both the workshop and the presenter the absolute highest possible rating of excellent. They didn't settle for very good. They went straight to the top of the scale for both the content they received and the person who delivered it. So how exactly did they pull this off? Well, let's find out.
Section 1. Meet the Master Presenter. Johnson John Rose in action.
To really understand those wild numbers we just saw, we've got to look at the facilitator himself, Johnson John Rose, the founder and CEO of Masterpiece Communications. This striking piece of participant feedback really paints a picture. They said, "The presenter was able to keep me at the edge of my seat as I absorbed the information in a number of days." Now, keeping an audience engaged for a quick 20-minute presentation is a skill, right? But keeping them literally on the edge of their seats, absorbing really dense media and crisis management info over 4 consecutive days, that requires a truly captivating delivery style and a total mastery of audience pacing.
And it wasn't just about being entertaining either. We've got clear social proof here regarding his deep domain expertise. Participants explicitly noted he is an expert in the field, very knowledgeable and experienced. This right here is the foundation of trust. When a presenter speaks with that kind of confident, clear delivery, backed by years of genuine experience, the audience just naturally leans in. They know they're in safe hands and getting reliable information. But here's where his approach really, truly stands out. He paired that high-level expertise with a wonderfully approachable vibe. As this quote highlights, he was very down-to-earth and honest with feedback. Add to that the fact that he actively utilizes the physical space of the room and commands excellent vocals, well, you've got a recipe for maximum engagement. He completely broke down that barrier between the expert on stage and the learner in the seat.
Section 2. Frameworks for Effective Delivery. Structuring Success.
Because, let's be honest, brilliant delivery is really only half the battle. The actual methodology has to be rock solid too. Let's look at how the sessions actually build across the program. Participants specifically praise this logical progression. Because you don't just start by fighting fires, right? Step 1 is understanding the media landscape. Step 2 is developing your core message. And then finally, Step 3 is applying those exact skills to crisis management. It's a natural, highly effective flow that takes people from foundational theory all the way through to high-stakes application.
Within that natural flow, participants were equipped with very specific, highly useful structural frameworks. One that kept popping up in the feedback was the ABC method. It basically serves as a mental anchor, giving them a practical structure to handle media communication on the fly when the pressure is really on. Instead of just vaguely telling people to, communicate better, the workshop gave them a dependable system to keep their messaging strictly on track.
A crucial point of any effective training is making the complex stuff accessible. And honestly, nothing does that quite like the classic KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid. It's a foundational rule for clear, concise, and impactful delivery. Attendees highly value these easily memorable gems of information. Because let's face it, when a bunch of microphones are shoved in your face, you are not going to remember a 50-page textbook. But you will definitely remember to keep it simple.
And this brilliantly illustrates a really critical tactical skill taught during the week, the art of the pivot. It's the difference between simply absorbing a negative question and actively redirecting that negative narrative into a positive response. You move from being stuck on the defensive to actually controlling the narrative yourself. This is exactly the kind of practical media training that elevates a participant from a total novice to a highly confident communicator.
Section 3. The power of practical application. From theory to practice.
You can't learn to swim just by reading a book about water. And you certainly can't learn media relations just by staring at slides.
That's why the trainer didn't just spout examples, he actively broke down the entire anatomy of a presentation. By dissecting speeches into their core parts, participants were handed the actual blueprint. This allowed them to easily and confidently reconstruct their own speeches for any format or occasion. It was all about empowering the attendees to actually do it themselves.
And they absolutely did do it themselves. Just listen to this feedback. I loved the participatory activities and the peer critique or feedback given after, which highlighted strengths and weaknesses. This right here shows the immense value of group activities. Readiness for interviews and speeches wasn't just discussed conceptually, it was actively practiced. The honest peer feedback, guided safely by an expert, created a rigorous environment for real-world simulation and genuine tangible growth.
Section 4. The Ultimate Workshop Takeaways. Real-World Readiness.
So, what did these professionals actually walk away with after 4 intense days in Grenada? Well, the transformation was completely comprehensive. They left with tested readiness for media interviews, public speeches, and professional presentations. They mastered the foundational basics of writing and speaking, and crucially, they deepened their overall understanding of how the media actually operates. As one participant noted, this training was incredibly timely and gave them practical skills they will actively utilize in their daily ministry roles. It wasn't just abstract theory, it was a total career-enhancing toolkit.
So, we've seen the data, the frameworks, and the genuinely enthusiastic feedback that made this Masterpiece Communications workshop such a resounding success. And that leaves us with one final, crucial thought to ponder. Looking at the sheer level of training these participants received, ask yourself, how prepared are you for your next media interview or unexpected crisis? Maybe it's time to find out.